What is going on? You are listening to TAGSPodcast, aka Talk About Gay Sex Podcast. This is episode 502. I am your host, Stevie, alongside Lincoln. How you doing, Lincoln?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Really, really good. Thank you so much. And of course, joining us is Kodi, Maurice, Doggette. How the hell you doing?
Hello, darlings. I'm doing wonderful. Wonderful. Yes. It's good to see you guys.
It's good to see you both.
Exactly. So much to talk to on this episode, on episode 502. I sent you guys a video. I'm not sure if you guys had a chance to watch it, but it is a parody of Kylie Minogue's Padam Padam. Did you guys get to watch it?
I did not.
You did.
I heard
Okay.
about it.
I love a good parody when
Yeah.
it's relevant. And for so many of us, the song of the summer was Kylie's Padam Padam. I won't sing them any more of that. But Kodi, I got to ask you, though, are you a fan of Morgan McMichaels?
Oh, for sure. She is the best, and she speaks her mind and is unapologetic about it. So I love Morgan. She's
So
great.
a parody, remember Weird Al Yankovic back in the day did a lot of parodies, but this one to me struck a chord just because it's called You're Dumb, and it's spelled Urdumb. And what it's so great about it is that she's actually talking about the far right. If you look closely, there's lines like, stop eating all that paste. Does the Kool-Aid have a funny taste? There's people like Carrie Lake, references from Carrie Lake, Lauren Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz, Ron DeSantis, Candace Owens, and George Santos are all being mocked in this parody of Kylie's Padam Padam. And I think it's really brilliant. I thought, what a great way to spend money on a video that is relevant. And it's all basically looking at the recent anti-LGBTQ laws and transgender anti-laws that have gone into effect. And so it's very relevant to the conversation today. I love pop culture when it looks right, puts a mirror up to our faces. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really great. What did you think? Do you like those kinds of parody videos, Lincoln, when you see them?
I do and I don't. I remember, what's her name did Madonna. I remember Medusa.
Oh, Tracy. Oh, no. Was it Tracy Ullman?
No, it wasn't Tracy.
I love her.
Was it Tracy Ullman? Anyway,
yeah.
It is what it is. I did like that they were calling out a lot of the poor behavior that's going on in our country and the rights that are being taken away. Like, especially at the beginning, it literally shows what's being taken away across country, which I like that a lot.
They do a good job of that.
I also think it gives them another spotlight. I've heard about Lauren Boebert or whatever her name is like 6 times this week.
Me too.
Because she was thrown out of Beetlejuice, and because she was this and that, and my airtime is too valuable. And like grabbing her partner's genitalia in a Broadway musical or something. Like,
oh my God, yeah.
And vaping next to a pregnant woman. Like, why are these people being spotlighted? So, but I also think it's a cute parody.
Yeah. I know you haven't seen it yet, Kodi, but what are your thoughts? I know you love this particular drag performer, and what do you think of calling out the far right and using music in a relevant fashion like this?
Oh, yeah, I think it's amazing. I think Morgan McMichaels is definitely doing her thing, and I'm so glad that she's using her platform to bring light to this. And I think that anything that brings light to the hypocrisy of the far right, because like you guys said, Lauren, whatever her name is.
I can't say that name. It's
I used to be able to say it right, and then it was said wrong, and now I'm screwed. It's fine. I don't care. If I cared any less, I would literally be dead.
Yes, exactly. She is saying that she's clearly against children she's not against children, she's against grooming children and all things of that nature. But like you guys said, she was in a child's movie theater, clearly being lascivious, being sexual with her partner, and it's just hypocritical. So the more we can do to shed light on that, the better.
Just to be clear, it was a live Broadway show. It was the touring company of Beetlejuice. Yes, it was a live performance, and she was videotaping the performance, which you're not supposed to do. And she was vaping next to a pregnant woman who was watching the show also. So there were live actors. It wasn't just a movie. You know what I mean? It's even worse.
Yeah.
And
Stupid.
the focus on this video, Morgan McMichaels focusing on all the anti-trans, anti LGBTQ issues, comes at a time when Americans don't want politicians focusing on transgender issues. This is a brand new study where most Americans are really not concerned with legislation around transgender issues and harbor doubts about whether lawmakers are informed enough on matters of this. And when they did a recent study, the State of Our Nation poll, they actually asked several individuals of all persuasions, and many of them, even the far right, actually said they don't care as much. While Republicans were more likely to support limiting trans rights, they opposed politicians focusing on trans issues. 58% of Republicans oppose a focus on trans issues compared to 49% of independents and 32% of Democrats. So I just think that we don't care a lot about these issues enough, what's going on. And I think this is I just love the music video. I think it's a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
And
I also get very concerned about polls these days.
Yeah.
I know we're all like View watchers, or at least you and I are, Steve.
Yeah.
And when they talked about a poll in the last week, and it was 1,800 people.
Yeah.
1,800 people does not the United States make. 1,800. It's ridiculous. And I am a poller. I'm part of the Nielsen rating thing.
Oh,
so I am, like, when they say, "Have you ever been called?" Well, actually, I have been called, and I have about TV, about like my watching habits, not about political stuff. So when it's only 1,800 people, it's just, like I said, it's a well-produced video. It's very Weird Al. We do need a new Weird Al. So I'm glad that she did it. I think it's great. We need a new version of that, and it's fun, but I also hate the spotlight on them again. I don't want it.
Yeah, the power of video, staying on the power of music videos, going back in time to 1998 to George Michael. And do you remember the song Outside? The song was written, but actually the music video had to do with George Michael at the time being caught in Beverly Hills in a bathroom where he was doing something I would do on a Saturday night here in New York City, but got called out because it was a public restroom, decided to let the brouhaha calm over and essentially made a music video out of it called Outside, where the director actually shot overhead as if it was helicopters flying over, and George Michael was a cop. The late George Michael wanted to shoot a hardcore porn version of the music video he filmed after being arrested for engaging in a lewd act with an undercover Beverly Hills cop, and this was back in April of 1998. Well, the director of the video, because there's a brand new documentary coming out on the artist George Michael, revealed his music history nugget in the upcoming documentary and said that Outside was the first new song that George Michael did. And so he said that George Michael really wanted to do a porn version, a secondary porn version. And actually, they shot so high above that some guys were actually penetrating others in. Really? You just couldn't see it. George Michael wanted to actually take this further on, but it never came to fruition. But I would have lived for that. I mean, I remember back that in that era where George Michael actually took control of what had happened, and to me turned it into a positive. It was reminded me, Lincoln, of Madonna back in the day when she posed nude and she said, "So what?" And I love that about her. I thought this was George Michael's moment. We have to remember it was 1998, where I think today it probably wouldn't be such a big deal.
Yeah.
Lincoln, what did you think of that? This new documentary that says George Michael wanted to push boundaries even further and have a...
I love that. I love George Michael and I love Madonna. And I remember that video, and I remember that being a very sexually charged video as it was.
Yes.
But I was also behavior that I was familiar with. So like having the tapping the foot and all that stuff in bathroom stalls, which I haven't, that culture I think is still out there, but that was before cell phones. Right. Before people could get caught, quote unquote. And it's when a lot more people were in the closet because it wasn't as accepted. And it was before and then in the middle of the AIDS crisis. So there was a lot of fear and excitement surrounding it. I also think it's an artist looking for attention.
Okay.
That's what it is. It's an artist trying to push the boundaries so that they get the headline.
Yeah,
It's not new.
Kodi, music videos have a lot of power. They can actually often make you like a song. They can, I've watched a lot of music videos where I was like, okay, on the song. And then I saw the music video and I saw an interpretation of what the song could be. And then I was like, oh, okay. But it can also be powerful because it can persuade and, actually speak to pop culture or what someone's going through. What did you think of George Michael? Would you have wanted to watch this porn version, or would it have been too much for 1998?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think me now would be totally for it. I would be all.
It could be his OnlyFans version of
Exactly. It would be so amazing. It would be par for the course of what's going on right now. I think a lot of people are actually doing that right now. But I think back in 1998, when I was just coming out and feeling my gay oats, I feel like that was a little bit too risque. And I feel like I don't know that if I would really, I was more demure back then. I wasn't tapping my foot back in 1998, unfortunately.
But how old were you in 98?
Oh, Lincoln.
Well, no, seriously. Like it's generational
it's an issue
as well.
with age. So,
so that's your issue. I'm 54, and to me, that was part of the culture back then. I know there's things that were part of my culture. I have a lot of friends that are in their 30s, and they can't even wrap their head around the idea that kind of stuff was happening. You know what I mean?
I know it happened. I know that it was happening. Especially now, I know that it happened. But back when I was 17, no, I wasn't tapping my foot anywhere. No.
Just real quick, 1998 was an interesting year for me in particular because it was the year that I moved from San Francisco to LA to become an actor. And it's almost like I went more conservative. It was because I was a go-go dancer living the club life in San Francisco in the mid 90s. And then 1998 rolled around. I had an opportunity to move to LA. I got a manager and an agent. All of a sudden I was going to bed super early. I was having dinner with my manager at 6:00 at night. I didn't go out at all. And it was like this, I went back, not backwards, but just more conservative.
Button all the way to the top.
I think I had cargo pants for the first time, and like beige khaki pants for the first time in my wardrobe because I had to have them for commercials.
But isn't that just taking care of business? I don't know if that's being conservative.
Well, I stopped going out, and like I was on a platform for so long dancing, and then all of a sudden now I was not doing any of that. So I became conservative in my gayness. I would say
right.
Mormon, darling.
But you also couldn't be out as an actor back then either.
Yeah.
Well, exactly.
So like it was more about playing a part, otherwise you'd be deemed as light in the feet. Remember that term?
Yes.
He's light in the feet.
God.
Yeah, that was
light in the loafers.
Light in the loafers. Yeah. Thank you. There's actually a song in a musical called, I think, When Pigs Fly, that's all about being light in the loafers. That's so funny. Anyway, sorry. Tangent.
No, not at all.
Because I'm light on my feet, but I float like a butterfly and sting like a bee, baby. Okay.
Yeah. Well, now that's celebrated. Every size is celebrated. Every sexuality is celebrated. So we've come a long way, baby.
Absolutely. Well, we got to talk about this next story because I think it's really important. And this happened last week when activists protested at Speaker House Kevin McCarthy's office in D.C. over the delay in reauthorizing. This is a program to fight HIV and AIDS in the U.S. and Africa. Many were arrested. Demonstrators from Housing Works and Health GAP chanted "Pass Pre-FAR," now referring to President's emergency plan for AIDS relief. And this all started in 2003 under George W. Bush. PEPFAR, which is estimated to have saved 25 million lives through distribution of anti-HIV drugs, educational programs, and more, could expire or will expire on September 30th. Its reauthorization is being held up by Republicans in the U.S. because they're saying it's used to promote abortion. And a report this year, by Heritage Foundation, a right-wing think tank asserted that the Biden administration has misused the program as a well-funded vehicle to promote its domestic radical social agenda overseas. What this will really mean is that if this has actually saved so many lives, this particular drug, and now if it's pushed through, it could limit this drug that is, people won't be able to get it. And so it's really dangerous right now, but it's really, they're using it, the far right is using it as, it's just insidious in my mind because it's helped so many people. I mean, Kodi, when you hear of things like this, that could actually be now we're talking, it's less of the far right just making claims against our community, but actually using their political stance to take away something that has saved so many lives for so many years. What are your thoughts? Because next could be PrEP and so on and so forth.
Oh, no, it's definitely insidious. Like you said, I think that anything that we can do in order to make public safety better and to make sure that we are more healthy as a people is good at the end of the day. And I think that them trying to stop this is just nonsensical. It doesn't make sense. I think that is part of the reason that Morgan McMichaels made that video, "You're dumb," because they're not thinking with their heads. They're thinking with something other. They have an agenda that they want to push. And it's really, it's backwards. They want to take us back to the dark ages, basically.
Yeah. I mean, Lincoln, when you hear of things like this, that a drug that has really saved so many people's lives and could essentially be on pause, be taken away, it's a slippery slope on where they go next.
It is, but I think a point is being missed because this person got elected by a lot of people that believe a certain thing, right? There are a lot of people that watch Fox News every day. There are a lot of people that think being gay is going to hell and a sickness. Now, we know, because we're educated and we're also gay, that is not true, But for the people who believe that, they're not just dumb, they're misled. They're not dumb, they're misled. They're miseducated. They're not enlightened, and they don't care about the greater good. Like, their actual mindset is me first, fuck everyone else. People who are poor can stay poor. People who are dying can die. So I think you're giving them too much credit to say they're dumb or they're not thinking. They're thinking. They're just thinking 180 degrees away from what we deem as the truth, and they're deeming it as the truth. So does that make sense?
Yeah, so you're saying they're selfish as opposed to stupid.
Well, selfish, sure, but also like if you're surrounded by a lot of people that say that the sky is purple or green, and everyone, no, but it's green, and you start to not believe your own eyes because you're in a think tank or a community that all thinks a certain way. Like, that's why that silo idea of we're all in our silos, of our beliefs, just keep us all separate and separate more. And legislation like this is horrible from a pelvic health standpoint. But if you have the stance that this is a horrible line that I was raised with, that is just disgusting, that AIDS was God's answer to gays. Remember that? Well, people believe that.
And I think you're right. This is exactly this is where exactly they're going. I mean, one of the things that this agenda would be is it's normally renewed, this particular drug, every 5 years, the funding for this. What they are proposing right now is that it would be renewed every year. And one of the reasons they're doing it every year is they're hoping that a Republican gets into office and has the majority so that it will be 1 year. So then they could almost abolish the whole thing, because the next year it's up to be renewed with a Republican in office. We're going to almost abolish the whole thing. So I think you are right. It's an agenda that they are smart in many ways, because, it could, that's where I'm saying it's a slippery slope. So that's why I'm so glad people are really fighting for this. I didn't know that this was thing going on, and that's why we got to report on some of these little things. Did you have
100%.
It's so counterintuitive to me. I feel like because wouldn't you want as a human being to have other human beings do well, to be healthy, to have access to all of these life-saving drugs that we could have?
It's only going to increase health insurance and
So
flood our
what?
hospital. No, I'm saying you're
Yeah.
right to your point, because if people can't get the drugs that they need, they're only going to end up in the hospital, which is only going to increase
yeah.
insurance companies. So if they're looking at it from a financial thing, it's going to backfire in many ways. And so,
Right, but they're looking at it from their perspective.
Of course.
That I should not need to pay for that lazy
Bottom line.
person or that other thing. And then I also think there is two, if we want to just keep going with this for a minute, there's two things. There's the ignorance of not knowing. So people believe what they don't know. And then some people have had experiences with gay people or with certain people that they see on the street, and then they generalize that all people like that are a certain way. Does that make sense? Like they've had a negative situation with some homo who was really drunk and knocked them over or whatever, and then all of a sudden all gay people are drunks. Like, what are you doing? It was you, Kodi.
I love it. Okay. Well, we have got to get into a new study, poll, if you will, but it's a study. Well, LGBTQ plus community embraces open marriages. Straight society is actually scandalized. In a new story that I'll post on TAGSPodcast.com, written by Christopher Wiggins, the New Research Center polling revealed a range of opinions about open marriages among Americans across various demographic groups, with the LGBTQ plus community accepting this relationship arrangement at significantly higher levels than other groups. And according to the study published last Thursday, exactly half of the respondents were either somewhat or entirely against open marriages, where both partners agree to pursue relationships or intimacy outside of the marriage. 37% of respondents considered these unions totally unacceptable, while 13% deemed them somewhat acceptable. Researchers also found that adults hold contrasting opinions about open marriages. Half of the respondents expressed disapproval, while 33% said they accepted such unions. Divergent perspectives on these issues were obviously evident on gender, race, ethnicity, age, marital status, sexual orientation, and political affiliation. But the survey revealed a stark contrast between acceptance rates between sexual orientations, where bi, lesbian, and gay adults expressed significantly greater acceptance at 75% than our heterosexual counterparts, which were only at 29%.
Wow.
This doesn't really surprise me that much because we've been talking a lot recently about, you and I talked, Kodi, on Tags Live on why are gay men more sexual and why do we like to have more sexual partners? And we talked about our history. And I think this goes in a long line of that. I think we got gay marriage in 2012, and that was a huge win. But we are not necessarily going to follow the prototypes that our parents followed. Yeah. And when you look at rates of marriage falling apart in the heterosexual community, at, you know, what's the rate right now? I don't have those numbers in front of me, but it's not great. And so I think I like this open-mindedness to, if you love somebody, you love somebody. I would like to think that if I were to ever marry, that I would be with this person in a monogamous marriage relationship for a while, but it may open up to polyamory or other versions of it. I just think, to me, that's realistic. So I don't know, Lincoln, you're engaged. What are your thoughts on this?
I am engaged. It's so funny how my thoughts have changed on this matter. I've tried open relationships and they fucking suck. They don't work.
They take a lot of work.
They don't work. There's jealousy, there's anxiety for me. Me and me only. So anyone pushing that on me, I would push back because I've been in that situation and it made me it made my personality and my morals and my upbringing very on the edge, like all the time, on anxiety all the time. And while monogamy feels like, oh my, how could I ever be monogamous? I was one of the most sexual people in the world. Didn't you see me at this and that and this and that? And it's been 4.5 years and it's kind of been effortless. I'm going on 5 years. I will be engaged. We had our first date on December 20th. So it'll be 5 years on December 20th since our first date. And we basically have just been monogamous ever since we've been together. And it would just be weird. I mean, we have very close, intimate friends. Like, we talk about Melvin being our throuple, and we talk about certain people, like another couple that we were going to go on a cruise with. But we're not sticking anything anywhere. It's a nice, healthy, balanced relationship. But I also, Peter's parents were married the entire time before they passed away. My parents divorced when I was 5, and my father cheated. So I think that for me is part of the blueprint, that the idea of opening it up is panic and chaos.
And you're Leo too.
And I'm a Leo and an only child. So
there it is.
And I also have a standard. So sometimes that's hard for people.
No, I like that. And it sounds like you're open to other people having it and these opinions.
Oh, and I'm not saying that in 10 years, Peter and I won't have some houseboy or something else might come up. But if it's not, it's just like anything else in the world. If you're not nurturing what you're in and what you're doing, whether it's your career or your home or your relationship or your animal or your friend or whatever, it's not going to grow.
Right.
So what's best, like I always say, what's best for the bakery? What's best for the gym? What's best for me and Peter? Now, we haven't, total change of subject. So keep going.
No, I want to hear from you, Kodi.
No, totally. I am completely monogamously minded, just like you, Lincoln. However, I have learned by being on this podcast and by experiencing life, really, that love is so expansive and that we as people have so much to give. And I think that when you limit yourself, then you really kind of you limit yourself, and you really just you don't really expand yourself to where you don't know what the possibilities are as far as love is concerned. So I think that even though I plan on being monogamous with my partner when I get a new partner or what have you, I have been going through a lot. However, yes, I do think that when you I have learned so much by listening to people in polyamorous relationships and about jealousy, because you mentioned jealousy in when you were speaking just a second ago. And I think that polyamorous people, they have so much to teach us. They have so much that we can learn by really living in their shoes and whatnot. So I think that it's great. And I think that this is something that you totally should take for. I love that we are going. I feel like I'm rambling now. Go ahead.
Can I say something really quick? This just hit me. First of all, I don't feel limited at all.
Yeah,
it's a choice. Secondly, you think like I think of my personal experience as when I was single at.
Can I just pause you for 2 seconds?
Sure. Go ahead.
But I understand that you said that you're not limited, but you also said when you were speaking that you have more love in your life, is what I guess was my point, really.
Well, let's see if this helps.
Okay.
When I was 45, I was single after having a lot of relationships. And I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. And I stretched that single rubber band from here to Berlin and around the world, and got 1 million people on Scruff and 1 million people on this and that. And I was up on a box dancing, and lots of things happened. And I really stretched into, especially with PrEP, coming out of the AIDS era. Now with PrEP, I could do whatever I want and be smart about it. And I really stretched. I am stretching the rubber band completely the different direction with my monogamy.
Okay.
I am going into a universe that you can never experience if you're in a three-way relationship with just one person. It's going further down the rabbit hole, a different direction. And I'm not limiting how I love people. Love is infinite. It's your behavior that's either appropriate or not appropriate. And if you're in a relationship with another person and you're monogamous, that just isn't appropriate. It's not judgment. And I could love you to the moon and back, but it's we don't do this behavior together.
I hear what you're saying. Yeah, I totally agree.
I love that. And I like this study just because it just shows that we're on the cusp, the cutting edge of our community really embracing open relationships.
And
it's not for everybody, but we at least are finding new ways because our relationships have never been validated, or they are now, but it's taken so long for the validation of LGBTQ plus relationships. And so why wouldn't we,
The only other point I want to make about that study and about this whole subject is I don't really love that gay relationships are pushed towards the monogamy polyamorous conversation. There's still a marriage. Marriage is fucking hard. It doesn't matter if you're two women, two men, a man and a woman. When it's a man and a woman, the woman was in the 50s was meant to just stay at home and take care of the kids, and the man's the one who got all the money. Well, that's completely flipped upside down.
Yeah.
So when you go into two men being together, where is all of that analogy and that history and that blueprint? So it's not just about sex. It's many, many reasons marriages work and don't work.
Right. And we're not even talking about finding a partner, which can be difficult in and of itself.
And people change.
Yeah. Much less adding people into the mix. But yeah, we're going to say one more thing.
I was going to say one more thing because I hear what you're saying. And I do think that you can I don't think that one person can fulfill every need that you have. Maybe sexually, yes. But as far as going emotionally, mentally, I feel like you need it takes a village to love, basically, is what I want to say.
And love comes in all fashions. Friendship comes to mind.
But again, it's appropriate behavior or not.
Appropriate behavior.
Like if you're asking someone to marry you and build a life together with a certain structure, and that this is okay and this isn't okay. And by the way, this conversation that we're having right now is only 50%, because remember, Peter's the other 50%. So there are things in his blueprint that he says to me, well, that I'm not really comfortable with.
Yes.
Which I go, is it that big of a deal to me?
And joining us now is Peter.
He's actually walking the dog, so he can't join us now. But
you don't know where he's walking the dog, okay?
I've been saying this a lot lately, and it can be a little offensive. You also grow up.
Yeah.
And sticking my dick in everything isn't even interesting right now. Now, God knows, in 20 years, if the bomb falls and I'm alone again and I want to do that, I'm not judging people who are that way or saying I would never be there again. But why would I destroy or possibly fuck up something that's working?
Yeah. I hear that.
For something I've done over and over and over and over again. And I was really lonely when I was very single. That's another thing. Sorry.
I heard that, but I also heard you say that this is something that you have to decide for yourself in your own relationship. So yes, final point.
And I do think that evolves as the relationship moves forward.
Exactly. Okay, well, we got to move on because we wanted to do this story the other day, and there is a new way that men are pleasuring themselves. You kind of tapped on this recently, Lincoln. We'll tell you a little bit more, but it all has to do with coming and how we come, and loads of cum or not loads of cum. And a recent thread has gone viral, and people are actually practicing this. It's called Injaculation. It's the actual concept where you you actually do something when you're jacking off. We'll talk about what you do, where the sperm goes inward into your urine, but it's supposed to produce some of the best orgasms, and some men are even claim it's more powerful orgasms, and that it's nourishing. There's minerals and the elements. Keeping it in leads to higher levels of strength, vitality, well-being, rather than simply wasting it on a Kleenex, because it goes into your bladder and gets reabsorbed into your bloodstream. Some even say the semen works like an antidepressant. Others, especially those in holistic practices, believe it improves creativity and clarity of thinking. There's no hard evidence on any of this right now. And actually, a doctor, sexual psychophysiologist, Dr. Nicole Prouse, says that what's being dubbed as injaculation also goes by another name and is seen as less than desirable in her line of work, meaning that if you can't ejaculate, it could be a problem of other issues. But here's how people are actually doing it. If you touch yourself between the anus and the scrotum, that just prior to ejaculation, you can feel the expanded urethra through which semen would normally pass. And by applying pressure to the area, you can detour your spawn to another part of the body. Oh. It's a little tricky. I actually think I've been doing this without even knowing in recent jacking off, actually, because I haven't had much sperm, but that's how I've actually pushed in that area. And I recently read this story and then pulled my hand away and decided to jack off the normal way. And I had plenty of sperm coming out. What? So I think I've been doing it without knowing it. Yes, I had great orgasms that way. So it's just really interesting. What do you think, Lincoln, when you
notice a difference?
I noticed that where I wasn't getting much ejaculation doing that particular way at all at times, like dry, that removing my hand, sperm was coming out. So I think I was doing exactly what they're talking about. So I noticed that the orgasms, were quite intense when I did that.
It's funny because this was a storyline on the Sex and the City reboot, and just like that. Do you remember?
Charlotte. Yes.
Charlotte.
Let's just tell that. We might as well tell that story really quick. Essentially, Charlotte is mad. Yeah.
You could. Okay, so the kids go away to school and they're having like crazy sex, and she's like, "Do you want to come on my tits? You haven't come on my tits in forever." And he's like, "Yeah." And he shoots a load all over her tits, and nothing comes out. And she's like, "Wait a minute!"
Because
and she's mad.
I live for that's what I want to see. And she tells the girls, of course. And so she starts to get him to do these exercises.
And they're like Kegel exercises because I don't know. It didn't really say in the series if it's a problem or not, but I haven't heard of us doing this on purpose. This is not. I don't know. I'm out.
Yeah, I mean, I think the area that they were talking about squeezing, and again, I will post this on TAGSPodcast, that you squeeze. I mean, I did have great orgasms, but nothing was coming out. I didn't know why. I was like thinking, am I out of, maybe I'm jacking off too much. Maybe there's other issues. But when I read the story, I literally tried doing it without that. And then I was, not buckets, but way more than ever before. So I think there is something to it.
Oh yeah, I hear that, but it sounds a little complicated, honestly. I feel like it's go past the river bend and then make a left, and then
it's below your scrotum. You just squeeze it a little bit. It's not that complicated.
You'll see a magical unicorn right there, and it's called Injaculation unicorn. So I'm confused. I want to try it though, but I feel like I need direction. I need some hands down there to help me out. So
well, I'm not about to. I will send you the video, though, that people are talking about.
There's a video?
Well, they're just telling you where this all came from and why guys, they're saying it's like, they also like it because the orgasms are stronger. They like that it's not a mess. They like, so.
Look, I'm here for the creativity. I'm here for all of the health benefits that come from this. But I really I need a tutorial. That's it.
Yeah. This isn't science-based here, and so I don't know, but I think it's worth a try. Anyways, yeah.
My just to bring it full circle, you said I brought this up on a previous episode.
Yeah.
Mine is just you jack off a lot until you don't have any cum left. So I kept it very basic. I'm just cleaning the pipes, basically. I'm not manipulating the wizardry of what's going on down there.
I love it. And lastly, I think you might appreciate this if you didn't already know Lincoln, but your girl Kim Petras actually surprised audiences by releasing her scrapped first album that was supposed to be called Problematique. And it was actually supposed to come out in 2022, but it was leaked. And she was really bothered by all this because people were listening to it. Well, now Problematique is back and ready for clubs and discos. I want to hear it. It sounds really good. But this is a problem when albums like this get, leaked. I think it's just so lame. I don't know. Have you heard the new album yet? Are you
I was
excited?
teaching to it 2 years ago when it was leaked.
All right.
Just like the original Rebel Heart. I still teach to the original. I played the leaked Rebel Heart tonight before my class started. I think it sucks. I think Kim Petras's Problematique, the album, could have really skyrocketed, and when it gets leaked, it doesn't do all the things it's supposed to do by climbing the charts and all of those things that make a record a record. I also love being the guy who gets the leaked version and can teach to it in class. So it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. Totally agree. I think that if, it would have been great if it came out when it came out, and she could have been, I feel like she's going to be successful no matter what.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that now re-releasing it and having all this hubbub and whatnot about it, I think that it's going to be fantastic. She's amazing.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, well, that's all the time we have for today. When you listen to this, if you like us, leave us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. It only spreads the word. Give us a 5-star rating, and if you don't like it as much. But you can always follow my co-host. You can follow Lincoln at Protein Bakery, or his personal account at Mad Lincoln, all on Instagram. Follow Kodi. He's a life coach at KMD Coaching, or his personal account, Mr. Maurice. And follow me. I am _Steve V on Instagram. Go to the show, TAGSPodcast.com, and reference episode 502. Guys, thank you. So much fun.
Thank you.
And in the meantime, continue having
hot gay
sex. Lovely.